British Prime Minister Theresa May is asking European Union leaders to extend the deadline for Britain leaving the EU until June 30th. Right now, the Brexit deadline is set for March 29th. May is facing major backlash over a speech she gave blaming British lawmakers for all the chaos. Nile Gardiner joins me now, former advisor to the late British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Nile, and I said this earlier, she may be fighting for her political life. How risky is this?
Well, I think that's absolutely right, Harris. I do think that, we are potentially seeing the last weeks of Theresa May's premiership. She's handled the whole Brexit issue in an extremely disastrous fashion. She has been weak-kneed in the face of EU bullying and threats and intimidation, and she's negotiated an extremely poor EU withdrawal agreement with the European Union, which is deeply unpopular with Parliament, and a lot of Conservative MPs, members of her own political party, are fundamentally opposed to the deal that she has negotiated, and she is expected to be defeated for a third time in the House of Commons next week if she goes ahead and holds a vote on the EU withdrawal deal. So a lot can happen in the next few days, but one thing is certain: Britain is scheduled to leave the European Union on March 29th, unless Parliament approves Theresa May's deal. And I have to say the prospects of parliamentary approval look very, very slim right now. We're certainly heading for a no-deal Brexit on March 29th, which I think would actually be by far the best outcome at this time.
Well, that's interesting. No deal is better than a bad deal. We're actually familiar with that in the United States with this current president. Steve HILTON, who has a show on Sunday nights here on the network, The Next Revolution, had some pretty interesting things to say about Theresa May's handling of all of this. Watch.
She has been trying to deliver Brexit, but remember, John, that she campaigned against Brexit. She was against it all along. By some kind of political accident, she ended up as the Prime Minister having to deliver it. Her attitude all along has been wrong. Instead of seeing Brexit as an opportunity for Britain to leave the EU and prosper outside of its regulatory burden, she saw it as a damage limitation exercise. That set the tone for these negotiations.
So, Niall, a damage limitation exercise. I mean, what does that say to the voters? They wanted this sort of thing. And if it happens on March 29th, as you say, without a clear plan, what does that do to the economy there? And could it have ripple effects here?
Well, I think, firstly, Steve Hilton's absolutely right. The entire approach of Theresa May has been extremely lackluster. The antithesis of how Margaret Thatcher would have handled these negotiations. The Iron Lady would have stood up to the European Union. Theresa May has surrendered to the EU, and hence I think her days are numbered as Prime Minister as a consequence. If indeed Britain does crash out of the EU on March 29th, I think Britain will do just fine. Britain is the world's fifth largest economy. Its economy is actually doing a lot better than its EU competitors at this time. Great Britain, I think, will thrive and prosper outside of the European Union. And the great thing about a no-deal Brexit is that Britain will be able to negotiate and sign free trade agreements with countries across the world, including with the United States. And President Trump has spoken at length about the benefits of a US-UK free trade deal. And so here in Washington, US policymakers are eagerly awaiting moving forward with a trade agreement with the United Kingdom. That would be a truly great thing.
Nile Gardiner will report it as it happens. Good to see you. Thank you.
Great to see you. Thank you.
I'll be right back.